heft.
With you, with you, with you, with you, with you,
That's right. A lot of women today, they don't appreciate heft.
with you, with you, with you, with you,
Welcome to another Sunday session of The Boyd, coming to you live from the Shop Studios. Very late tonight. Well, I mean, I wanted to start at 10. One sort of solo tonight. Producer TJ couldn't make it. We do have a dope track by Sep Rock Beats. And again, Welcome to another episode. So, actually, what was that? On my mic? Okay. Oh, can you turn the Facebook on? We're still working on things here at the board. These are the embryonic phases. Is it on? Thank you. All right. Okay, so here we are. Oh, another episode of the Boy Sunday Sesh. So a few things. I'm just going to jump right into it. Sometimes Sunday Sesh is just a recap of Wednesday. I think Wednesday was a short session. I didn't have a guest. I sort of just ranted about stuff. So, I mean, that's sort of the point of this show because, I don't know, I just rant about crap. And who's going to listen to me inside my shop? Those of you joining on Facebook Live, you don't get to hear the Seprock beats through Facebook because of how things are done here right now in the shop studio. So you don't get to hear them. But if you jump onto the link that is supplied there in the description, you can see the YouTube live stream and comment live, all that stuff, because I would like some input on these pretty heavy topics here we got. Okay, so what do we got? One thing I want to talk about real quick is this article that someone shared from a Fintan O'Toole in the Irish Times. I don't know anything about Fintan O'Toole, but I'm going to share it with you. So take a moment here. To share this with y'all. Oh, that's not what I want. Oh God, infinity screen. Let's get some of this in. All right, so I'm going to minimize this. So maybe you could read this. I don't know if it even is working the way I want it to. It's not. It already isn't. But it's okay. Let's read along. Or if you're audio only, or I'm going to have some audio only, by the way, in the future for this show. All right, so here it goes. It's basically, what is it? What was it called? I'm trying to see if it had a title. I don't see it. Anyway, it's about fascism, and I know people are so numb to this whole rhetoric thing about fascism, and people think the Trump people are fascist, or people think the Antifa people are fascist, or I don't know, the Nazis are fascists, which they are by definition pretty much fascist, right? Okay, so anyway, I thought this was interesting. It was an interesting take, especially if you're looking back through history, and as if you learn about the idea, I mean, really these historic times are really shifts between mass groups of people and the people controlling those people, because if you also, if you think about it in a natural, from a natural history sense, I guess, because we've discussed in previous episodes of the podcast that we are at this juncture, we have been for a long time, of nature versus escaping from nature. Those of you tuning in on Facebook Live, to jump over to the YouTube so you can read this along with me. Otherwise, or you could just watch me read it off the screen. All right, here we go. To grasp what is going on in the world right now, we need to reflect on two things. One is that we are in a phase of trial runs. The other is that we're being trialed at it. Excuse me. The other is what is being trialed is fascism, a word that should be used carefully, but not shirked when it is so clearly on the horizon. Forget post-fascist. What we are living with is pre-fascism. It is easy to dismiss Donald Trump as an ignoramus, not least because he is, but he has an acute understanding of one thing: test marketing. He created himself in the gossip pages of the New York tabloids, where celebrities manufactured by planting outrageous stories that you can later confirm or deny depending on how they go down. He recreated himself in reality TV, where the storylines can be adjusted according to the ratings. Put something out there, pull it back, adjust, go again. I wish I could do an Irish accent. That'd be pretty cool. And I could read this in Finn O'Toole style. If you do a good Irish accent, throw it down in the comment section. That'd be pretty cool. All right. Fascism doesn't arise suddenly in an existing democracy. It is not easy to get people to give up their ideas of freedom and civility. You have to do trial runs that, if they are done well, serve two purposes. They get people used to something that they may initially recoil from, and they allow you to refine and calibrate. This is what's happening now, and we would be fools not to see it. One of the basic tools of fascism is the rigging of elections. We've seen that trialed in the election of Trump, in the Brexit referendum, and less successfully in the French presidential elections. Another is the generation of tribal identities, the division of society into mutually exclusive polarities. And that's going to be a very interesting point that we should talk about tonight. The Facebook stuff that I promised I would address issues. These, I didn't want to write comments because I was getting annoyed, and it's always on my phone. And like I said, anyway, in previous episodes, that I start turning into Mr. Hyde, crazy guy, on Facebook. So I want to talk about it coherently on the Boyd podcast. All right, so go back to this article. Here I am, just deviating all over the place. Where were we? They get people used to something they may initially recoil from, and they allow you to refine and calibrate. This is what is happening now, and we would be fools not to see it. One of the basic tools of fascism is a regular blah, blah. Okay, we talked about a fascism does not need a majority. It typically comes to power with about 40% support, and then uses control and intimidation to consolidate that power. So it doesn't matter if most people hate you, as long as your 40% is fanatically committed. That's been tested out too. You just got to admit that it really is. Really look at the right wing stuff. Look at what even what's considered left wing really is bought out corporate wing. It's really what it is, with a veneer of some identity politics, something that pisses off right wing people. It's there's not a majority of people that are whining about some kind of thing about a pronoun, this or that. They're like, look, if somebody, I guarantee a large majority of people out there are like not making a huge stink about it. And it's like this idea that if your name is Robert and you like to be called Bob, and someone insists on calling you Robert, then that's sort of dickish. And know how the Canada law and stuff changes things, and these are real things. So it's not like fake crap in some theoretical, test tube off in, some lab. It's like real crap that we're seeing right now, that your friends, your family talk about at the dinner table, and you're forbidden from talking about it because it's the truth. It's like, hey, there's a big monster that's going to eat us all, but if we don't talk about it, then we can live our lives in peace, and eventually the monster will rain down upon us. And what are we going to do? Hopefully someone will save us. Where's our savior? Who is our savior? Who will that be? I don't know. I mean, in past generations, it's been other the famous people, the extraordinary people that show up in extraordinary times. Who are they? It could be you. I don't know. If you're on the Facebook live feed, jump over to YouTube. The link is in the description, so you can see this thing that I'm reading here about fascism. All right, here we go. We said fascism does not need a majority. Dabba dabba. Okay, propaganda machine, so effective. A universe of alternate facts, impervious to unwanted realities. We see this happening, okay? Again, the testing is very far advanced. Going back to the sophistication of humankind's collective knowledge over time, that we have reached new heights of being the ability to manipulate mass chunks of people in a certain way. I'm telling you, just this to be true. So when you know this to be true, listen to the words of this guy. All right. That's crazy stuff. I'm telling you. But when you've done all this, there's a crucial next step, usually the trickiest of all. You have to undermine moral boundaries. Inure people to the acceptance of acts of extreme cruelty, like hounds. People have like hounds. People have to be blooded. If you know about training hounds, maybe you can comment on what that means to be blooded, which basically I'm pretty sure means you feed them some type of animal that either is dying or is bleeding, and they get the taste for the blood. All right, like hounds, people have to be blooded. They have to be given the taste for savagery. Fascism does this by building up the sense of threat from a despised outgroup. This allows the members of that group to be dehumanized. Excuse me, human. Almost tried to say something else. All right, anyway. Once that has been achieved, you can gradually up the ante, working through steps from breaking windows to extermination. People have to be given the taste for savagery. Fascism does this by building up the sense of threat from a despised outgroup. It is this next step that's being test marketed now. It's being done in Italy by the far right leader and the Minister for the Interior, Matteo Salvini. How would it go if we turn away boatloads of refugees? Let's do a screening. Let's see. Rough cut of registering all of the Roma and see what buttons the audience will press. And it's been trialed by Trump. Let's see how my fans feel about crying babies in cages. I wonder how it will go down with Rupert Murdoch. To see, as most commentary has done, the deliberate traumatization of migrant children as a mistake by Trump is culpable naivete. It is a trial run, and the trial has been a huge success. I mean, it really has. I mean, think about Trump supporters in your area. There was someone recently, I just saw a headline. I didn't read the whole thing, but the headline and some of the description of the article said that there was a female that escaped, female detainee, of a refugee or asylum seeker or somebody detained by us for being here in the illegal fashion. And she escaped the detention center and was running and found her way into a body shop. And this Trump supporter person who is all about that life of what we're doing to people who obviously have come here to the land of dreams and whatever, and you're like, well, just follow the process. If it takes 9 years and your family's getting destroyed because of it, whatever. We helped Vietnamese during the Vietnam War. We helped certain ethnic groups during other wars. We helped other people do other things. It's like pick and choose. Anyway, that's a whole other tangent. All right, let's go back to this. I can't even get through this thing. Here we go. Far right leaders. Let's see. Next step. All right. Trump claims last week that immigrants infest, quote unquote, the U.S. as a test marketing of whether his fans are ready for the next step in language, which is, of course, quote unquote, vermin. Okay. And the generation of images of toddlers dragged from their parents is a test of whether those words can be turned into sounds and pictures. It's always an experiment. It ended, but only in part because the results were in, and the results were quite satisfactory. Okay. Where I lost myself. All right. There's good news on two fronts. First, Rupert Murdoch is happy with it. His Fox News mouthpieces outdid themselves in barbaric crassness, making animal noises at the mention of a Down syndrome child, describing crying children as actors. They went the whole swinish hog. Even the brown babies are liars. Those sobs of anguish are typical of the manipulative behavior of the strangers coming to infest us. Should we not fear a race of whose very infants can be so devious? Second, the hardcore fans loved it. 58% of Republicans are in favor of this brutality, which I saw the interview with Sesh saying that it was done as a deterrent. So it wasn't an accident. It was done on purpose. And he even described it as, hey, if we rip your children away and send them to foster care and oops, we lost them. When you go back to Guatemala, you're going to tell your buddies. And when your buddies find out we got your kids and we're just going to give them to foster care and who knows who's peddling what and who right? I mean, that's what we're doing. That's what Jeff Sessions said. Jeff Sessions said, we're doing it as a deterrent. When they go back to Guatemala, then they tell their buddies, and then they tell other people that, hey, you're gonna lose your kids if you try to go to America, so just better not do it. That's what he said, literally. Like, I wish I had the quote. I don't have the quote on me. I'm sure you can look it up. I mean, I didn't do it exactly, obviously. Lame. All right, but yes. That's crazy stuff. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. Why would you do that? Why would you? I mean, even if you don't agree, I mean, even if you don't want people coming in here, come on, there's ways to do this. 58% of Republicans are in favor of this brutality. Trump's overall approval ratings are up to 42.5%. So remember what happened in the first paragraph or so, about 40%. This is greatly encouraging for the pre-fascist agenda. The blooding process has begun within the democratic world. The muscles that the propaganda machines need for defending the indefensible are being toned up. Millions and millions of Europeans and Americans are learning to think the unthinkable. So what if those black people drown in the sea? So what if those brown toddlers are scarred for life? They have already in their minds crossed the boundaries of morality. They are, like Macbeth, yet young indeed. But the test will be refined, the results analyzed, the methods perfected, the messages sharpened. And then the deeds can follow. Let us protect our freedom with all our democratic power and continue to be brave with everything we must face. All right, anyway, I thought that was a pretty interesting take on what the infinity screen. Whoa, what is that? I thought that was an interesting take on some things that are going on. I mean, definitely the Trump mind, there are some scary things I believe are happening. As they're outlined, and I don't think it didn't all start with him. I think all of the Patriot Act and stuff, lots of stuff that came after NDAA, some stuff that came during the Bush administration, during the Obama administration. There's a long history of this happening, and there's. Hold on, I'll get back. I don't have. I'm trying to run all this and do the show at the same time. All right. So I don't even remember what I was saying. All right. So there's crazy stuff that's happening, and it's been happening for a while. And I think people can't really understand the idea of a group of people that have, I mean, God, sounds so conspiracy theory, but that groups of people can either collude or work against each other, either way, um, to try to warp the government or warp public perception. I mean, the conservatives blame Hollywood for warping and of the the cultural sort of lens in their mind, and they do. You have to admit there's a lot of things that echo in society based on things that we see in modeled in some ways. Just think about famous people and how they can start trends. We are by nature followers, and that's why I think it's dangerous. A lot of times we hear people say that human nature is one way or another, like we've always been, warring with each other. Some group of people has always attacked another group of people, and it's just always been the way of people. And I disagree. I feel like there's a few psychopaths that make it to the top, and we as followers are easily manipulated because we're just looking for that. We just need a reason, maybe not even a reason. We just don't want to be alone, is what it is. I think at the core of it. So I don't know. If you agree, disagree, any of those things, put a comment and say what you have to say. Let me see. Let me see what we've got here. So if you're on Facebook Live, make sure you go over to the Boyd link for YouTube. Just in case Facebook feed dies, because it may actually happen. Let me see here. Trying to see. But I think we explore a lot of these things on the show, so I think that should be one of the draws to subscribing to the YouTube channel. There you can see the archives. There's nothing really edited out right now. Everything's raw. But be on the lookout. And there'll be SoundCloud streams, so you can get audio. That way you can listen to this stuff on your way to work if you want. What was I saying? All right, so that general society stuff. But so while we talk, or while you think about general society, let me take a look at some things I said I would address, and some things I can't remember which one I said I was going to address on the show. So I'll just address everything because it's just easier this way. Okay, here we go. I'm going to attempt to make this work a little bit better. Oh God, what just happened? Okay. I don't know if you guys, I don't know what you can see or not. Oh, this is so. Trying to work with free software. Sometimes the free stuff sort of works, and sometimes it don't. I don't know what just happened. Just been working through a lot of technical difficulties on this show today. But the show must go on. All right, whatever. All right, here's an infinity screen. Oh, God, get this out of here. Okay. I don't even know. Who are these groups? Atheist Safe House. All right. Why is Facebook's algorithm recommending these things to me? I don't even know. All right. I posted this. I can see this very hyperbolic, um, trollish comment on purpose a little bit on my Facebook. The slimiest slime often carry Bibles, is what it says. And it's got Franklin Graham talking about Bill Clinton, and, you know, his extramarital sexual behavior now concerns him and the rest of the world. If he'll lie to mislead his wife and daughter, what will prevent him from doing the same to the American public? And then, when he goes to talk about Donald Trump, I think some of these things, that's for him and his wife to deal with. And I think the same with Stormy Daniels and so forth is nobody's business. And I said the slimiest slime often carry Bibles. Now, I'm not saying that if you carry a Bible, that means you are slimiest of slime, which that's what Dustin down here. I mean, I don't know if he. Hope he doesn't care that I showed it that. I mean, I guess that's a risk you take for saying stuff on my Facebook. You might show up on Boyd, which is watched by like maybe 3 people. So you are very unique in the world, but also not very famous for making comments. Anyway, so he took it. It looked like basically that I think people with Bibles are bad. And I'm like, no. He's thinking in extremes. We've been taught to only think in a dichotomy, like it only can be one thing or another. We've been so tribalized. Like for instance, the slimiest slime often carry Bibles. Often doesn't mean all. Often. And what I'm saying is that, I mean, think about this too. What do you think about politicians in general? Right? Think about that in general. What do you think about politicians? If you think politicians are like awesome and they totally work for you and the stuff like that, then great for you. I don't believe it. And how many of them probably carry a Bible or would claim that they carry a Bible in public so that they could curry support from the Bible-toting folk, whether or not they did the same? That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people carrying the Bible that are slimy and slime. And for him to do this it's basically the same kind of thing. Either, hey, are you taking the Clinton route, or are you going to take the Donald Trump? I mean, is he saying, "Oh, I grew now. What happened with Clinton? You know, I misspoke back then, or I grew in maturity." In the new, more mature way of thinking is, hey, let's not worry about extramarital affairs. We got, the world to run. I don't know. It's, I don't know. It is a very, to me, it seems sort of frivolous. But it was frivolous to make a big stink of Clinton, too. So, I don't know. To me, just what, come on. Who cares? I mean, it means some things. It's true. I like what he said about Donald Trump to some degree. Hey, that's for him and his wife to deal with, as long as he's handling his stuff here and maybe he made some mistakes, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yay. I can side with that. But it seems flippity floppity. And then you have a huge following and you're manipulating the way they think. And that's sort of lame. So that was my point. Slimiest slime often carry Bibles. And then he went on, old Dustin. I love when Dustin comments because I always know it's going to be challenging. That's what I love. Something about Erdogan. I don't remember. I didn't even read that. Sometimes I don't get the connections he's making. Sometimes his mind is so nebulous to me. Perhaps his genius is too far reaching. Could be the case, in which case you need to use different words to explain yourself. Maybe take some special training to deal with someone of my low mental capacity. But he thinks something about Trump and Clinton, not hard to understand the differences, and blatantly taken out of context. Doo-ba-doo. Oh, yeah. And then he goes into something. What was it? Oh, God. Something about, what did he say? The government. Left-wingers decide what everyone thinks, says, and does. Your religion is showing, and everybody knows that the religion of government controls the most stridently dogmatic and intolerant philosophy under the sun. I'm like, dude, come on. I don't even like the government because they're supposed to be good, but they're not. So I don't know. There's got to be a way we could fix this. I don't know. Let's talk. Blah, blah, blah. My idea of government, I think the government for the people, of the people, by the people is a pretty awesome thing. Maybe he disagrees. Maybe he disagrees about that. Where everyone shares their resources because the government requires it. I never said that. See, he makes these straw men. I never said that. Why is he making up these boogeymen so he can like cut them down with his samurai sword? Like, I never said that. Your ideal government that you're openly calling for a revolution to establish is just a further corruption of what we already have. He doesn't understand that we have a corruption now, and we need to end the corruption in either direction. I've always said over and over again. I don't understand how to say it in more words, in different words. Please, public, help me. Somebody help me. I've always said since the beginning of this show and prior to that, I have said that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. That saying is the vigilance over power is referring to, in my mind, in my interpretation of that phrase, which supposedly is attributed to nobody knows for sure exactly. So whatever. And that's how it's supposed to be used. Not hijacked, not the way it was hijacked by the military industrial complex to mean some other crap. Which about posting people on a border or something, being in NATO or some crap, or like killing people. It has nothing to do with that. The eternal vigilance is over power. The power of capital. Capital is the accumulation of money and resources that can be used to manipulate people, including the society, including government, including, and you say, well, that's why government shouldn't be so powerful. It's powerful because corporations help make it powerful. They help lobby for things, that agencies that can be hijacked by them, that can be controlled by them. And then somebody decides, oh no, this agency should actually do the job that people wanted it for or was sold to the people for. And then they do it. And then the company's like, oh, but it costs more if I have to actually put my waste somewhere that doesn't kill people. Oh, let's go put some lobbyists together. Let's go put some capital together. Let's go weasel our way into making things happen our way. It's happening now. The Trump administration is like the manifestation of this rampant infection that's happening right now. Right? They're going to deregulate things. Now, I'm not saying because of the potential corruption of some of the regulations are probably stupid too. I believe there should be like a fourth chunk of government. And yeah, this is my ideal government. If we had a fourth branch of randomly selected people who we can come up with criteria, everyone who want to agree on some criteria, let's whip it up. And everyone who wants to jump in can jump in, put your name in a hat. That way they can't bribe you. And that way, and we'll figure some shit out. I don't know, but we got to figure something out to where we can have some people look at something that doesn't have a partisan take on it, because we've been trained to only think of things in two dimensions, in two ways, when we live in a three-dimensional world. And it's just ridiculous. It's like, this is the kind of conversations we have where someone makes up some stupid shit about some sharing of resources bullshit. Nobody said that. I'm saying that, though, I do believe there are we do need to tone down capitalism. That capital, we've seen the effects of rampant capitalism in the past. We've seen it happen with the monopoly capitalists. We've seen it happen in the turn of the century. We've seen it happen when the kids are dying. We've talked about this. Capitalism can go crazy sometimes. And we have to understand the power of that, the power of capital to manipulate and become too powerful. If we're not vigilant through things like unions or ways to balance the scale for the general populace, then we have no liberty, because corporations are not benevolent beings. If they're able to manipulate through PR, aka propaganda, right? Exactly. I mean, if you know anything about propaganda and public relations, you know they're exactly the same thing. Okay. And they can manipulate the way society looks at things because they have gained sophistication in their knowledge of manipulation. And so it is it's just something that we're dealing with, and the pendulum needs to swing. And I think with automation and what we've learned through technology and further technology, I think we could do even better if we took capitalism out of the equation. People would say, oh, but James, capitalism harbors such innovation. Capitalism does so many your cell phone. Oh, this podcast and YouTube, you're using it. Hogwash. That's some neat stuff. I concur. It's pretty cool. But it's almost like yelling at the guy that's hauling steel to the automotive plant that's being built to make Model Ts, and he's using a horse-drawn carriage, and he's saying, yeah, this shit is old news, man. Model Ts, that's the new thing, man. That's the way of the future, man. And so they go and talk shit about it, but yet they're maybe running this horse team. And they just see the future. But they are participating with those horses. So what's going to happen? They're going to have some idiot over there saying, well, if you really believe that, why are you working with them horses? That's what we got now, and you're using it. Or like back before slavery was abolished. Well, your shirt was made with slave cotton, so you're one to talk, you hypocrite. You just want people free and but you're wearing a slave cotton shirt. Why don't you pick the cotton yourself? Stupid shit. That shit happens all the time. Anyway, I don't know. Whatever it is. Again, continued characterization of two private parties engaging in mutually agreed upon transaction. How did it go? Oh. It went from freaking talking shit on Franklin Graham. It goes into some economic debate about some shit that he said something about. I think he thinks I want communism to like kick in or some shit. Now, I believe some things should be socialized that aren't socialized. I think we should really look at housing, how that works, and property, as far as real estate property. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it. I'm not saying that. So don't get all weird, because they're already getting weird. But there should be some. There's a. There's something to be said about that phrase. They ain't making more of it, right? When they're talking about real estate. And that means something. When you couple that with time and either an expanding or decreasing population, that means something. So how can we more efficiently use the space, because we have tons of vacant stuff, and we have things like gentrification happening, where basically you can start putting things up for sale and leaving them for sale until someone actually buys it for the price you want, whereas people need to leave and move out. And half the time people don't even own where they're living, so the landlord sells out at a decent price and zagas out. You don't have a place to live, and now you're pushed to some other place where you didn't really have a choice in the matter so much. And you could say, well, you could own your own property, which, I mean, if you're already barely making ends meet, it's probably hard to do something like that. Though some people do it, but you could argue, if I'm not a proponent of communism, but you could also you can also argue on the flip side that let's pretend that anybody could be part. Let's see, they could be head of a Politburo, and they could run this whole division of the bureaucracy. And so anybody could do it. You just have to do these things that make the state happy, just like you have to do these things that make the capitalists happy. Which they would say, well, is society happy? Well, not necessarily. It's what makes capital happy. What society would love to have free healthcare, right? Or healthcare that was free at point of service, right? Of course, it would be taxed, right? But what if we actually got what we were paying our taxes for? Right now, we've got contractor leeches. We already know this. Everybody on both sides of the aisle of any place, of any American out there, and even international people know that we are that we are getting milked. The taxpayers are being milked by the fucking contractors. We know this already, and we're just letting it happen when we could be looking at ways to streamline our government in general. We could be looking at ways to enact a Medicare for all and make it work. And I propose something where if the private companies can't make things affordable, and there is a group of people that feel like they can do it better and for cheaper through government funding, we might start needing to do stuff like that. Because I think it's a ruse to say that the capitalists' for-profit motivation will come up with the most efficient methods, because it just comes up with the most efficient extraction of labor and value. It doesn't necessarily become the most efficient, because by definition, the profit extracted is an inefficiency. And so you can come up with those same ideas without having that profit motive, because of what we know now after trying to chase profit for so long. We know that there's people out there that could look at, this is why we need conservatives, because they could be out there looking at these things. You could have what would be like a new nation, right? New nation conservative is one who sees the social program, understands the pitfalls of capitalism and why things like housing, food, water, these kinds of things are integral parts of society, that if we're going to have this, we're going to play this game of capitalism, then we're going to need to then we're going to need to provide that at least baseline minimum for people that aren't working out so well in the game. Because you can't say that this government and the capitalist system that we're working under is not a natural process. It is a man-made process, and it actually goes against a lot of our natural inclinations, which we can talk about at some point. I don't want to go too deep into it. But anyway, and then what happens? He says all of this stuff, corporations, what did I say? Corporations can do things more justly, right? And the government can do things more justly. The power of corporations, the power of government have been intertwined. The vigilance of the American public has been blinded. And so now we are stuck, not seeing the power and the tentacles of both the government and the corporations in an inverted totalitarian fashion. Look it up if you don't know. I think this guy named Sheldon Wolin or something coined the phrase. This notion that the government basically is working for the ends and means of the corporate class, the corporate groups, and the capital class. Anyway, Dustin goes on, if manipulation is bad, and it is, you don't correct it with more greater manipulation. Your continued characterization of two private parties engaging in a mutually agreed upon transaction as manipulation is incorrect. Actually, quite literally the opposite. Manipulation is more like someone coercing someone else to engage in an activity they would otherwise not engage in. Like, say, for instance, I want to hire an employee, I want to pay him a certain amount. I found someone who wants the job and I want to take it. I'm willing to pay for them and they're willing to do it. And someone else called them something that says they don't want to agree, mutual manipulation. And I'm saying, look, you got a superficial understanding of capitalism. It's like you've never even looked at. I'm like these. Okay, so the religion of the capitalist neoliberal, basically, that anything can be commodified, that capitalism and the profit motive is the solution for every ill and ailment of society, right? But hey, how about this? If there was a light bulb that would last forever, do you think they would make it? What if it only cost 25 cents to make? Would they make it? And how much would they sell it for? And it lasts forever. Would they make it? No, they wouldn't make that. Who would want to make that? Would they make free energy? If there was a way, somehow, there's this field of energy that's out there right now, pulsating, just waiting through some special antenna that could gather it and harness it. If that were happening, oh God, infinity screen. Oh geez, what have I done? What have I done? Where was I? What was I going to say? Oh yes, a scientist, right? A scientist. What? With the scientific method? What do? You come up with a hypothesis. You test it, right? You have a control. You have, you do all your stuff, and part of it's peer review, right? Can you imagine doing something in science, right? Doing some scientific research, and there's peer review pointing out shit and flaws with what you're doing, and you refuse to read them and you refuse to understand them. Should you be taken seriously? Real question. Should you be taken seriously? Because if you're not willing to look at a critique, consider a critique, and really think about it, then should you be taken seriously? Because now you're like someone who thinks that dinosaurs are really dragons, and you're, even despite all the critiques by the people who have studied this and proven it wrong, you don't care, right? That's what you want to be and do, right? So why am I saying this? He has a minor in economics. Okay, well, great. It has failed him. It has failed him, I said. Yes, I said, and what? It has failed you. Yes, it has failed you. He said he's going to log it as a win. And what he fails to remember is that capital has time on its side. Capital has money on its side. Capital can manipulate the government. Capital can create the government. Capital can... There's times when the National Guard in our past, when the National Guard has been hired to break up a strike and has killed American citizens on behalf of corporations and capital. It is not a fake thing I'm making up. You think the gulags and communism are bad? Try fucking with capitalism. Try even thinking about nationalizing some shit for your own country. Talk about it. Next thing you know, freedom. Freedom from America. Oh, ye rain down upon Those who believe that their own spoil should be shared amongst their people. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. The market must decide, and we will decide who is your ruler. And we will decide who will be able to play in this little sandbox or jungle or wherever we decide. And we'll set up the debt and they'll pay it back. And we'll set up the labor conditions and we'll set up whoever wants to run whatever. And they'll pay us off and da 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 da. And this corrupt, sick tendril of government that gets installed. Right? That is something he forgets. Right? He forgets about, again, at the time is a huge consideration in the manipulation. Also, the idea of population. Is the population booming? If it's increasing, we have a conundrum, especially with the understanding that advancement will create automation. We have this freaking glaring contradiction, and with a world with finite resources, how are we going to continue end over end consumption? It's got to come to an end at some point. So how does that happen, right? These are very simple baby critiques of capitalism, right? These are like, if you just read a pamphlet on Marx, there's little bits of that. If you read a little bit of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, he talks about this, okay? So ad hominem, Dustin comes in, Paul comes in and says something, and to something. I mean, imagine when fucking, Chrysler shuts out, whoa, what the... I don't know what just happened. All right. When they shut down a plant and it kills the whole thingamabob, the town, capital isn't there to save the place. And they decide they want to just up and leave. There's no protections for the people in those cases. And also, at that point, the market just got been manipulated by capital, where the organization potential of the labor is not such that they can command resources the same as capital. So they're not playing on equal footing. They say, well, we created these jobs. And really, how would those jobs even be, how would that product be put to market without those jobs? So it's a mutual endeavor, but they want to take all the credit because they organized it. It's really a matter of organization. If you can organize enough people to do a thing and you can give them resources, like for instance, there used to be land grants, through the government, which built this United States somehow, some way. There has been a propaganda machine that's pushed this idea that America was built on this like survival of the fittest crap, and the government didn't help crap. That's not what happened. In fact, white people only, they were able to, Martin Luther King talked about this a bunch. They were able to own the property, to qualify for the land grant, for all of those things. And, and now they just want to act like that stuff never happened and America wasn't built that way. And now, it's just, it's a psychosis. People are not willing to look at the reality. So when I say I'm critiquing capitalism, I'm not critiquing a free market. I'm critiquing a system that allows major organizations to manipulate the way society functions through wages, through whether they exist there or not, making those kind of decisions that affect the lives of people. They're investing their life. That is something you can't get back. And that is an investment, that is a risk. If you choose the wrong company, that's a risk. Just like it's a risk if you put the money down and bought shares. They don't want to talk about that risk, but it's a risk nonetheless. And there should be a more proportionate share of the value created by their labor, period, regardless of skill. I don't care if they're the janitor or if they're whatever, if they're a freaking head engineer or they work in HR. They should get a proportionate component of the profits that are driven by the produce of their own labor. That should just be it. And then there's ways that we could do that. We could look at structuring of companies to where we could look at this at a certain size. They have to abide by certain rules where like there's a proportionate split of all proceeds that come from the profits of that company. That there's a minimum. Let's say there's a minimum the CEO is getting paid in a bad year. Then there's a minimum that the workers get paid. When the company is hurting, the workers are hurting. Okay. When the company is doing well, the workers do well. And it's a tied together mathematic equation, not whether or not the market of labor versus capital requires it. Because again, with automation and with future population being unknown, the power always ends up on the side of capital. And so we really have to level the playing field a little bit. And really one of the big disconnects is your lifetime, your time of your life, that your wage, you're basically in a wage slave situation. Because if you don't do it, what are you going to do? You can't opt out. You have to do something. Where will you live? You would have to live on the teat of the government through some kind of shelter or something. You can't even live on the street. It's illegal pretty much anywhere. It's illegal to go live on the land. You can't live on private property. You can't live on public property. So you can't opt out of this thing. And there should be, anyway, there's a lot to this. So basically you have no choice. You have to play the game. And that's it. And so the game should not be tilted so heavily. And we've gone through history, swinging the pendulum and swinging the board of the game back and forth. And now we're on a new path. All right. Okay, so I posted this thing. What was I saying? Okay, so true. Control and shame. Anything else they tell you is bullshit. And I think so, because there's not a lot of support coming from this group of people that are pro-life, etc., that really deal with supporting the children themselves through mutual support, through society helping. They really don't seem to be about that, and they think it should be done through charity, which, I mean, charity can't be trusted. You say government can't be trusted. Well, you can have an eye. You can put an eye on the government, and you can change the government. So that's BS to say the government can't be trusted. You should be actively participating in it with your eternal vigilance. And I think we all should. Maybe we got to come up with some kind of compulsory governmental or military service of some sort. That we come up with. I don't know. Let's talk about it. I think there's enough things around this country that you can join this, and enough kids graduating high school and stuff that maybe don't have a college or trade outlook that they already know. And even if they do, I think it still should be compulsory. And we can have government programs that go along with any kind of thing that occurs, and we can talk about how that works and why that works, because part of it is that we should be looking at being in a transitional phase to not necessarily completely stop a free market, but we have to change the culture of continued consumerism, because it's just not a valid culture. We know that on a finite planet. I mean, otherwise we have the people escaping from Mars, and it makes us no better than fucking fungus. I know we're smarter and better than fungus. I mean, that's literally what people are saying, you know, basically saying, oh, we can consume it till it's a dry, rotted husk, and then Jesus is going to come fucking save us. Well, fuck you, and fuck your theories. It's fucking stupid. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so this is about pro-life stuff. Oh, God. Yeah, they're pro-life, and then they want the rapture. Not all of them, but some of them. I mean, they want everyone that doesn't believe to die. That's part of what the rapture is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Come on, guys. All right. You also pro-life, but don't think about the lives of the mothers or the orphans or the foster children or the poor or the abused kids. The parents didn't want them. Y'all just care about the fetuses you didn't help make, won't raise, won't think about once they're born. Save it. And I think it's pretty true. I think a lot of it has to do with control. And I went into a deep dive in it with Dustin, of course. And thank you, Dustin, for giving me stuff to talk about on the Sunday sesh. Looks like it's a long Sunday sesh. We still have one more page to look at. Sunday sesh. Pro-lifers are evil, blah, blah, blah. Abandoned children shouldn't be believed to murder the children. Something about being confused. All right, so there's a lot of stuff. You can read it. If you're on the YouTube channel, you can read it. Responsible for their actions, you via the government have nothing to do with. And you can espouse your values. I would even agree that education to mitigate the demand in the first place can be instituted. Right? What punishment should the government meet? The government shouldn't pay for them, but should not enforce prohibition. No one said they were evil, just disingenuous with their supposed conviction. And that I pose a thought, thought exercise or whatever, about this notion that if let's say, for instance, you were randomly selected by the government because you were one of the only people that could save this other person by doing some kind of bone marrow transplant or some crap, and you have to be surgically, they have to do some crazy surgery on you, and you might be, who knows? Anyway, it's going to be invasive, and they're going to take some shit from you. Now, should there be a program per the government that would compel you, if random lottery said that you would have to undergo this bone marrow transplant to save the other human being as part of a national duty, would you comply? And he said the punishment that you should have to suffer the consequence of your decisions, right? So that's what his punishment. You should suffer the consequence of your decisions, right? There's no equivalency to require a citizen to help a third party in protecting the life of a person that exists because of a decision to have unprotected sex. Okay, so this, here we go. Anyway, what did I say? Either way, is life important? Either way is life. Importance of life is situational, I ask. Of course not, but responsibility is. But your assessment, I say, your assessment has no jurisdiction over someone else's liberty. As someone's assessment as to your responsibility to the life of another shouldn't impede yours. Doesn't go along with your authoritarian/libertarian contradictory fantasy, though. That's why you're a disingenuous BS peddler. Can you rephrase that? And I said, go get a mastermind together. And he said he's an INTJ mastermind, which I am not talking about an INTJ mastermind. I am talking about a Napoleon Hill. Get some people with better brains than you together to help you understand what I just said. Okay, you got it wrong. And he's again I overestimate what he is going to get out of it. Maybe I'm just too nebulous in what I say. I probably speak in metaphors and expect him to just see behind the veil of my speech, and I'm failing at it. All right, what did I say? I said you're wrong. You should just stop. Like a pinball machine, mental gymnastics. Okay, so this is the crux. Because he won't save a life because it's a life. He says it has nothing to do with the third party. So it has everything to do with responsibility and nothing to do with the life. His view isn't about the life. It is about you should endure what happened because of your unprotected sex. That is what it is. Okay. So what if someone believed that you should, as an American, your duty is on the lottery day that you have to go through surgery because that's your duty as a citizen. And that's what I'm saying with his, what did I say? He's INTJ mastermind, couldn't see what I was saying. Your assessment has no jurisdiction over someone else's liberty. Whatever he says, right? Of course not, but the responsibility, responsibility, not the life, the responsibility is the crux of this. Okay. I said your assessment has no jurisdiction over someone else's liberty, as my assessment that you should have to comply with the lottery as part of the national citizenry. If I had that thought, I have no right to force you to be compelled to undergo surgery the way that you're forcing a woman to be compelled to undergo childbirth. So save it, like we said. What did the thing say? It should say fuck off, but it says save it. Wow, here I am getting all crazy. So not Dustin, fuck off, but like the people. I mean, you could change your mind. Here's what this is, I think, here. Let me clarify all this stuff. Dustin, don't get mad. I doubt you're even watching. You should watch on the YouTube channel. Dustin, this is what I think. Look, I'm not a pro-abortion person. Okay. Now that might confuse you and blow your mind out. Okay. That's different than saying I believe that the government has no place in a woman's uterus. Okay. I think there's a couple of ways we could look at this, both philosophically and we can look at this spiritually. Okay. Which I don't know, the spiritually thing, that's your realm, whatever. I don't care really what you think about that, because I don't respect every other religion that you don't respect the same way you don't respect them. I just also add your religion to my list of things I don't respect. So there you go. That's how easy it is. Take one more step. You'll be just like me. We can look at things rationally. So rationally, let's look at this. I don't believe that it's a good idea to have lots of abortions. And here's the thing. A lot of women don't either. If you really look at it, a lot of women have, it affects people when they have an abortion. It affects both the man and the woman. It's not simply a transactional thing that people go willy-nilly over. Now, some people do. It's out there. Yes, there is a movement of people that are pro-abortion, that feel like woman power. You should go and have as many as you want. Fuck them. I don't really agree with that. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, morally, that becomes a questionable issue. But at the end of the day, I mean, obviously, what are you going to do? How are you going to know what this person is necessarily doing? Whether you legalize it or not, all of these things, they're still able to go and do something. What if someone invents a pill that just makes it happen? Then what? Then they just go get this pill, or whatever. What if you could drink a herb and make the stillborn child? Is that what you'd rather have? I mean, for the most part, I think if there was education that talked about, hey, don't do this, don't make a child, that way you don't have to have an abortion, then nobody would want that. And we've seen that happen in other parts of the world where they have more open-minded people that don't hold back societal progress, which would be an understanding at a somewhat young age, probably whenever, I don't know, let's talk about it. When do they need to know? Probably when they start changing. When do kids start changing? I don't know. I don't have kids necessarily. So just you say, figure that out. Let's talk about it. But at the same time, if there is education, then you won't have the need for this to happen as much. So we should have that conversation. Also, I do believe that, once you set, either if you, I mean, life is a crazy thing. What is life? How do you define life? Right? We talked about this in another episode a little bit. At what point is a thing alive? What part of it is alive? Right? You are made of atoms, which put together minerals, which put together, or not even minerals, are put together into molecules that are put together into cells, and da da da, all the way to organs. As we start building this thing in the cellular form, what part of that's alive? In the organelles, is that alive? You know, at what point does life become the existence? When we start to see these processes that sort of undergo through chemical and electrical stimulus, and that's what motivates this next step, or whatever it is. It could be you hearing my voice right now, which is really my voice, which is vibrating the air, which is vibrating the diaphragm in the microphone, which is sending electrical signals, and blah blah blah. Neil deGrasse Tyson already did this, and all of that thing happening. And when it hits your ear, that in of itself is a chain reaction of electrical and chemical impulses to something that is perceiving it, either another chemical electrical thing or something. I don't know. Maybe that's where the new realms of physics will take us. I don't know. So with that argument, at what point in this, Rube Goldberg apparatus of life are we going to start defining these things? Number one, but at the same time, once the Rube Goldberg machine, the RG, is in effect, it's not going to make a tumor. It's not going to make a cheesecake. It's going to make a human being. So when you do terminate it, you will terminate what would become a human being. So we have to think about that. And I think that's something we have to think about societally, but that's something philosophically and culturally that we can talk about. And that's how I believe that we can compromise on this, that we should really talk about, hey, let's prevent this from happening. How can we do that? And if you are pregnant, yeah, let's try to figure out ways that we can, if you can have the kid, and we'll figure out ways, adoption programs, and let's fix them so they're not made for profit. Profit motive fucks things up. People keep saying it makes it more efficient. It doesn't. It makes it so that people leech off the government. It's not. They end up. You say, oh well, they'll bid for it and this and that. It never works. It just never works. And part of that, I guarantee and believe that part of that's because we keep trying to get governmental unlimited funds to go to a capitalist leech style for-profit mentality being. And we can't do that anymore. We have to look at people just like that are in the military that are going to go and fight. Why are they fighting? Because they want to earn more money. And so if they fight well, they'll get bonus, or they'll find some gold coins or something when they bash some crates. No, that's not why people go and join the fucking military. So, and they don't do their job to a high degree because of that. People don't join the firefighter, join the firefighting, squad or whatever, the fire department, simply because of the money. In fact, cities keep squeezing more and more from these people. They're doing it because they have a duty. So why can't we instill the same spirit and ethos into all the other aspects of societal problems that we have to address now? If we have faith in our military servicemen and women, and we have faith in the apparatus of the government, of the military under which they serve, then we can apply some of those same things that we see under the military. Now, if we want to also admit that the military does some blundering, stupid shit, then let's talk about it. Then we should also open that line of discussion every time the military does some shit. So we got to face realities. And this whole conversation is not a discussion of realities. We see that he, at the end of the day, distills his position down into responsible parties must take responsibility for what they did. It has nothing to do with the life itself. And what I have to say with that is, look, I would hope that the fewest abortions would ever be actually undertaken. Um, you know, and the most people could be served by society as we could possibly do. That would be the greatest, right? The ideal situation. I don't know how we achieve that. We could as a society, but we fight it. But anyway, but I think that you can't have the government compel you to do one thing or another, and you just have to accept that right and hope that people make the right decision, which I think most people would make that decision. If they decide they don't want to go the other route, that's their volition, and it's not a wrong decision per se. It might be wrong in some eyes, but it shouldn't be an illegal decision. Whether it's wrong, I mean, smoking's wrong in some people's eyes, but yet they do it. Drinking's wrong. It's legal. Da da da. Whatever. I don't care. That it's just one of those kinds of things. Anyway, not that I don't care. I do care. I'm just saying it's one of those things you just got to let go, and let's work on how do we shape propaganda instead of giving us military fetishism and corporate fetishism and consumer fetishism and all of that stuff, which is promulgated constantly, right? Instead of doing that, let's do better PR about making people proud to be Americans while also saying that we should take care of our fellow people in a way which includes a government that is streamlined and works for the people, and a corporate system or a corporate and capital and labor ecosystem where things can thrive, and the government's hand needs to be, or the government's not hand, but more like barriers need to be in place. Okay, I think we have one more that I wanted to address, and that's it. And I'm done for the Sunday sesh. Okay, this one. Okay. All right, I think the first time I've featured Julie on the show, but she's also a right-wing person that's on my Facebook feed that sometimes participates. And thank you, Julie, as much as we have vitriolic, terrible conversations. And I do really still feel like you're pretty crappy for making up lies about my work in the oil field. That's pretty shitty to do, because I wouldn't lie about what work someone did when they worked hard doing something. And I also helped a lot of people navigate their retirement stuff and financial questions because of my financial background. And so I think the people that are in the know what I did in the oil fields, but I just sort of lame, because I think people respect her position, because Lewis, her husband, is a very well respected wireline person, or person in the field that I was working in, and for her to say things from her place of authority is very petty, I believe. With what is it? With great power comes great responsibility, and she has shirked her responsibility. So I'm calling her out in public with words, and I've also said as much in text that is now forever etched into the interwebs of Facebook and other whatever. Okay, so sure, we can talk about how socialism could work, but first we have to go to the land of make-believe. Ha ha ha. So edgy. Federalist Papers. Oh God, these guys. All right, so I said when you were dependent on taxes via the military, because her husband was in the military for a while, were you in imagination land? Because I know my taxes were real, and so were all the other American people's taxes that were paying for all of this. And her response is Venezuela. Oh my God. It's like oh my god, it's like I just lose my patience. I lose my patience. I mean, Venezuela, yeah, they might have done some stupid shit, and I'm not even saying we should be socialist or like all 100% socialist. I'm not saying we should get rid of the free market. I'm saying that some things should be socialized, just like our military is socialized, just like our fire department is socialized, just like most of our schools, for the most part, are socialized. These things can be done in a collective manner, and I don't feel like this is any different than that. And there's no part of the Constitution that says everything better be 100% capitalist and for profit, except for national security that can be collectivized and socialized. What part of the Constitution says that? I didn't see it. It says promote the general welfare. Well, hey, if the capitalist system is fucking people over, guess what? That's not promoting. Hello. And if you're going to say, well, it promotes, everyone has the same opportunity. Well, hey, how about this, comrade? Everyone has the same opportunity to be ahead of the Politburo. So how about that? Your likelihood of being the director of a massive bureaucracy is just as likely as you being a major corporate creator. Okay. You might be, how about this? Oh, well, maybe you'll be some kind of squad leader and have a few people underneath you at some point, and that they earn a very good living. Well, you could say that about the bureaucracy, just like you say, oh, well, just start your own business. The number of people that fail versus the number of people that succeed, we all know this. What is a first year business success rate? Oh, yeah, but what's the number one idiot response of people demanding labor rights? Well, if you don't like it, go start your own business. Derp, derp. Okay, well, first of all, capital requirements. Okay, well, how about that? Resource requirements. Okay, how about that? Oh, we'll just save up. And especially if you don't have multi-generational wealth, it's just a fantasy land talk. I mean, you might as well say, hey, comrade, don't worry, man. Someday you could be part of the Politburo. Someday you'll be the strongest man in the Politburo. Just mark my word. Nobody's fucking. I mean, you could say the same fucking shit. It's the same conversation, just different fucking trappings. Anyway, Venezuela. So I say LOL because I'm just tired of even talking about Venezuela. It's just so stupid. The other type, that can't work. The kind that pays for our military. Like it worked for the other military families dependent on socialism, like my family. The irony is overwhelming. And my dad's an anti-socialist. Yet the military is a socialist teat. Just not even a teat. It is suckling on the taxpayers. Constantly suckling. The irony is overwhelming. Too bad you're not sharp enough to appreciate it. Here I am with my ad hominem because I'm just become this evil man. The fact that you're likely the smartest person in your social sphere has doomed you to ignorance. Irony there too would make a great comic, and really it would. I mean, I don't know how to feel about this because I'm pretty sure she is, and I don't think she's going to have a really coherent person that she trusts and would listen to. She won't listen to me because I'm an adversary. But if someone she really respected said, hey, look, you know what? James has a lot of really good points. You got to slow your roll. Think about what he's saying because he's not really saying what you think he's saying in your boogeyman mind. It's really very on your side, on the side of the American people, that is. All right. Anyway. The fact that you're like this might make you doomed. I mean, seriously, Dunning-Kruger and with the echo chamber, I mean, that's where you get fucking crazy shit where like a whole town sends off the village idiot to be on the America's Got Talent. I mean, that's what happens. So fuck. Anyway, here we go. The Nordic countries. That's what I say. That's like the canned response from the left, right? LOL simpleton. And then she responds, the military is national security. You're welcome that you're safe. Okay, yeah, take all the credit that I'm safe. Yay, I'm glad you're doing all these things for the Constitution. Explain to me how that works. Where's that algebra take us? If you prefer not to be protected by a military, you can certainly move to a Nordic country and pay 40% of your income in taxes and rely on the UN to protect you with U.S. muscle and money. Funny, though, you should do that. Yeah, but it's still fucking socialism. And we're still supporting, even if we're fucking supporting the Nordic nations. Why the fuck am I supporting the Nordic nations then with my socialism for them, and I can't have socialism at home for fucking me? Answer me fucking that question. Blah, 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 freedom, blah, blah. That's what I said, because that's what she fucking gets, because that's stupid. It's stupid. You know, I don't know. I'm sort of losing it. I thought when I would do this podcast, I would be able to have much more rational conversations. I don't know. I just get fucking worked up. It just doesn't make sense to me how. Well, it does make sense to me because the propaganda, the fucking propaganda, the hypermasculization, the hypermasculine culture, the gun culture, the this caricature that was created to be quote unquote the left, this thing. And now there are some people that are doing some stupid shit, but are we going to say all conservatives are the tiki torch people? Are we going to say all conservatives are the Richard Spencer guys? We're not going to say that. We're not going to say those things. So if we're not going to say those things, then why? Then why would we say that about another quote unquote side of things? It is. Oh, come on. We're just getting caught in this this vortex of this madness. What is happening? All right, come on. So let's try to figure out what's going on. Tons of infinity screen, tons of craziness happening. All right, so let's close this out. Didn't get TJ Triforce. Shout out infinity screen. Yes, the bought off pawns. I gotta. Oh man, I can't get this to work. All right, come on. What part of this is real that I can actually? Here we go. That's it. Let's go to the camera. All right. The show, the show really thrives off of your participation too. So if you are watching this in the archive format, please make sure to comment. I will go back over them. And I think a lot of folks don't really have my take, or they're so dug into, deep into their echo chambers or in their cultural identities that they can't see what I'm trying to say. They can't understand what I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to say that we don't want to have a free market. There's always going to be a better basket weaver. So you shouldn't have the government issued basket. If you need a basket and you like this other guy's basket, then fucking buy his basket, But we just don't need the fucking other shit. All the manipulation of shit. Speaking of, let's look at this one last thing I wanted to talk for. I just remembered. I don't know what's going on with this. Pardon me. I don't know what's happening. What was that doing? Oh yeah. All right, infinity screen for a brief moment. Oh god, infinity screen. Okay. I work at McDonald's, and we have these little cards that we give to customers when we fuck up their order that lets them redeem their card for a free Big Mac. Just recently, we received a box of these special coins. They're going to serve the same purpose. If you have one of the coins, you can exchange it for a Big Mac. It's for the 50th anniversary of the Big Mac. Now, I'm far from an economics expert, so this may just be a stupid question. But since our money has no value anymore, McDonald's are backed by Big Macs. Does that make sense on this? Get all sorts of crazy ski-wampus. Yes, it do is one of them. Gold standard is bullshit. What a dumb post. Probably written by an ANCAP. So there's all sorts of stuff people out there in the world are saying. But I thought it was an interesting idea. Could it be true that that in a way, I mean, it's redeemable for a really. All right, I was gonna try to look at some of the comments, but there was one. Let me find. Oh man. Oh yeah. So somebody was saying something. All right, this is what I posited for this. All right, so there's a bunch of people talking about like this and that and whatever. And this one guy says, "Try buying anything else with that coin. Tell me about how it goes." And this guy responds, "Couldn't you just trade it with someone who wants a Big Mac for the value of the meal, though, and thus profit?" And then to Tony's point, not unless you stole a coin or got it for free. And I says, then it has at least the value of a Big Mac. That by that definition, it has value, and depending on the faith of other parties as to potential future redemption, they may accept that value. I meant to say if this meme, not of this meme. If this meme goes viral and McDonald's announces that it will redeem these in good faith for as long as McDonald's exists, it could be something. What if someone bought it as a speculative move, like a call option? They could trade with the idea that inflation and availability of redemption could make it an appreciable, physical asset. So if you believe in McDonald's, which some people might believe in McDonald's more than America, as a more stable institution, probably has more working capital. I don't really know how McDonald's is doing right now, but they're probably doing well. Anyway, and you feel like the Big Mac will be consistent with time, over time, then that might be a good move to get into these coins, especially if that thing goes viral. Because if those coins become in demand, they might be worth more than the actual Big Mac, just because people are crazy like that. So, I mean, be on the lookout for these coins. Because, I mean, especially if you're a numismatist. If this meme goes viral that I just showed here, hopefully it shows up here right on the video. Anyway, interesting way to think about like what is our money really backed by? You know, it's not on the gold standard. Okay, I can understand that, but at the same time, what's driving the demand? And some people might they would say the goods and services that are produced by our economy. Other folks might say that it's really the petrodollar and the demand for dollars driven by the need to purchase oil in dollars. So is that part of it? I don't know. You guys comment, say something. What do you believe? But with that being said, I think I'm going to get ready to head out now. On Wednesday, I'm going to be doing another live show. if you want to be on the Boyd, just get in touch, comment, PM. There's way, if you're seeing this, then that means you can get in touch with me. So get in touch, and you can Facebook live. I don't know, have Skype. We can figure it out. Just Facebook me, and that is a good way. Or through YouTube, just put a comment or PM. And, invite somebody if you want. I'm not really into debates per se in the debate format. Let's talk about it, because I think what I end up seeing happen is a bunch of shotgun shit. And you can't have a real good discussion and dialogue because someone's able to make straw man and then fight the straw man, and then the audience can't really follow along what's really happening, in my opinion, because I've seen it happen. What else? Yeah, if you want to be on the Boyd, oh yes, also like, share, all that stuff to help sort of get this out. So if this resonates with you, some of these questions resonate with you, if some of the discussion, if it tickles your mind a little bit, find a way to share it. Get it out there. What else? I don't know. Comment. Please participate, because that really shapes the show, and it wouldn't be quite as interesting without some input, because there might be some points of view that I would change based on something that you say, or maybe I can change your point of view based on what you say. So put something down so we could figure it out. All right. Sep Rock Beats, the outro. Deuces.
Play a bomb that's been stupid. Play a bomb that's less than stupid. Play a bomb, play a bomb that's play a bomb that's less than stupid. Play a bomb that's less than stupid. Less than stupid.